Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to another episode. The title is Am I Ready for the I Am? And this episode is for the mystical audience of this world. I will be diving into the way of thought of Papaji, Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramana Maharshi, and various yogis. I want to begin by speaking about specifically a quote from a cigarette salesman in India who was a very poor man, and in the middle of just being this poor tobacco salesman in India, very cheap life, very cheap house, everything is very, very simple and low. This man attains one of the most ultimate clarities. It's one of those kind of like fairy tale stories where a very poor cigarette salesman realized his true nature, you know? Now, the quote that Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, he's a yogi, of course. You know, people who don't know him, I may be just giving you a fragment of the story. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj has this thing where he says, first, he's speaking about the experience of existence and the stages that we go through as a being. He says first the I am myself comes. That means when we open our eyes in this world, when we are born into this world, we stabilize as a I am myself. That means we consider ourselves as a position, as a, as our name. We are our names at first. When the child is called, if you call another name, the child doesn't respond as if it's not the name. But when you call the child's name, instantly the child suddenly has the signal. So Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says first, the I am. He says first, the I am myself comes. Then, the I am myself goes. That means first you start off thinking you're just this, then that goes. He says the I am myself leaves, the I am all comes. Then Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says the I am all leaves, the I am comes. Then the I am all, the I am comes, then the I am leaves, and nature is. With this quote, I don't know how many people notice it, but Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj has pretty much explained the phases of uh, the evolution of an individual into a collective. The more collective we become as species, the more everything was from the beginning. This may sound strange, but I feel in the future we are actually creating a deja vu. We're going towards it. That means conscious deja vus. Can you imagine? So, the I am myself, that is the object, the individual object. When I think about my body, yeah, it's my name. It's my personality. When I think about my mind, though, my mind is everything in the moment. My mind is like the I am all, as Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says. You see, if you notice, even right now as I'm speaking to you, whoever you are in the world, we're all conscious creatures. We can look at this. That in Vedic thought, space is like the mind. It has been here way before matter. So we can say the body is an individual technology, the mind is a collective technology. Beyond both of these counter sense of I am and the actual sense of I am. Nature is just being. This whole time, from the beginning of my life even till this moment, I've done so many different things, but nature has always been. It's like the person opens their eyes and they're like, oh my God, am I in a world? And then they look at this world and they're like, am I a self in this world? Then they look at it a bit closer. Oh my God, am I the mind in this world? The whole mind in this world? And then the person looks at it a bit closer and realizes, oh no, it was just the world. It's like a round circle where first we fragment, we separate ourselves from the system to be a player. Then this player, its whole time is trying to become the system again. It's this poetic thing where it's like the soccer players and the field are taking turns, you know? As if poetically I'm saying this of course, one lifetime you're the player on the field. The next lifetime, the field will become the player. You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is something that I don't know how many scholars have really focused on, have caught the point. In the Bhagavad Gita, God, Krishna, comes to Arjuna and he tells Arjuna, we have been together many lives. And Arjuna's this archer on a battlefield who doesn't want to fight, and like as if the spirit of the moment is manifested to him, telling him, you got to continue on, you know? And what Krishna says to Arjuna is as if they have been taking, not per se taking turns, I would say, but they have been together. What that means is we all think we're just an individual here, because that's how the language has allowed us to accept reality. But if we realize every living individual has a collective counterpart, that means we think that the individual body, the physical body, is for this projected hollow self from the brain. Not realizing, what if our body is Earth's intent? That means I have thought about this. It's a very, very complex, I would say, philosophical point. How would I say it? If I'm a collective being, my responsibility for individual classifications changes. That means if right now you knew that you would never die, you would care maybe less for the world. You know, one of the most profound questions that I fathom, I'm like, we're a temporary being wondering about if we're eternal this whole time, but what if we are an eternal being that's wondering if it's temporary? That means for the first time it occurred to me, if I was immortal, the purpose of life wouldn't be survival. Do you see? The purpose of survival would be some sort of emotional access to the new. Because the person can see new things, but emotions are like, they are like the landlord of what thoughts get to stay in your intelligence. So if the person is feeling sad, I'm telling you, someone could come and tell you the most happiest thing. You look at them and be like, I can't hear this. So my point is that we start off as an individual object, then we become a collective subject, then we realize that regardless of the object and the collective, nature is. And I will tell you that is one of the most ultimate positions. If you are a being, a human being, and you can look at nature and see how it's just being, before you put a concept or context to it, I will tell you, you are a person who the world's soul is looking for you. Because you see, it's not just the United Nations that needs translators. Nature needs translation. That's the whole point. When I think about the human being, I'm like, all right, I'm like a UN translator, translating the leadership of nature into the leadership towards the leadership of man. Really, what it is something is moving here. And whether I call it me, or I call it the world, or I call it nature's pure being, There is something here happening. And this is the most crucial wisdom, that it's an event. It's a living event with unknown variables. The unknown is I would say it is the God of knowledge, the unknown. It is truth's space. So thank you for the lovely comment, Joy, in the chat section. You know, when I say this life is an event, don't think I'm not trying to attend it. You know, there's so much to this life that the person can have any ideological perspective. You know, do you know how many ways our eyes have contained the world in language? It's ridiculous. I have seen a person and they have been a friend to me, a foe to me. They have been, I have seen too many faces in one person, I could tell you. You know, it's like, you know what it is? It's like the person's like, you know how there's this idea? You know how there's this idea like, they say that person has two faces. Oh my God. That means you meet a friend, let's say, that in front of you, they're such a great person. In front of others, that friend changes its character. You know? There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who they can't actually, they're not living for themselves. So when the environment becomes turbulent, they change with the environment quickly. You know? But when you realize everybody is here once, then the person, it becomes easier to accept. I mean, it's strange, you know. Usually people say the idea of death makes the person fear and kind of incapable to accept life. Usually the person's like, what? It just stops? Oh my God. You know, like the person freaks out. But when we really look at it without the ending, how are we valuing the beginning? That means if there was no ending, we wouldn't, excuse my language, we wouldn't care for the beginning of things. If there was no ending, that means and immortality technically means no mistakes. Because all mistakes, their danger is of the denial of the continuity of the creature. I want to read some quotes from, of course, a lot of people. But first, I'm going to read different people who have said, who have commented on the concept of who they are. You know, pretty much the website says, I am who I am. I am who I am, sayings and quotes, okay? Guys, I'm going to read this for you. Then I'm going to go specifically zoom in on Papa Jishu, Nisargadatta Maharaj, and Ramana Maharshi. So this is a general quote tunnel, then it's going to become specific. Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho, guys, was my hero when I was a young kid wanting to play soccer. I can't tell you, like my whole, like one of the most vivid memories of my childhood was trying to copy Ronaldinho's skill on the field. You know, Ronaldinho says, "My family is everything. I am what I am thanks to my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, because they have given me everything. The education I have is thanks to them." That means having a good family is like an education. Brian McDermott. I can't go against my nature because I am what I am. I don't try to be anyone different to who I am. Yeah, guys, you can't even try. I mean, the concept doesn't make sense. Trying to be something else doesn't make sense because then it means you were never, the moment you are that something else, you were never just the thing before, you know? Varsha Sharma. Don't judge me. You can't handle half of what I've dealt with. There's a reason I do the things I do. There's a reason I am who I am. Okay, I have no idea who Varsha Sharma is. Simon Elkels says, one of the things that makes me who I am is the loyalty I have to people I hold close to my heart. The knight's honor doesn't lead many astray. I will tell you, in this life, if you find something to care about, whether it's, it goes through, I mean, you could say gradual levels. You know, first the person cares about objects, stuff outside of them. Then they care about what's inside of them. After they have fully cared about what's inside of them, they come again to care for what's outside of them. And really, that's it. Pretty much, I would say my events, my experiences throughout the day, right now I could say it so easily, they're divided between attention to the inner realms, outer realms. That means if I'm watching TV, I'm more in my inner realms. If someone is talking to me, I'm more in my inner realms. If I'm running, if I'm exercising, if I'm going somewhere, then I'm in my outer realms. Do you see? You can be in the outer realms and somebody could be like, hey, what are you doing here? And you instantly go into the inner realms. The moment somebody asks, the moment the person has to wonder about how the context of the moment is being, little do we know. Maybe we don't have to design the concept of human existence. We are already a biological being taking place, you know. But when it comes to the context of existence, that's very generated. That's pretty much where the meaning of life comes. How the concept is moving in your attention suggests the meaning of your life, I would say. The meaning of the concept that you are to yourself. Fiona Apple. Because for whatever reason, even though I want to stay home all the time and be left alone, I want to tell the world who I am now. You know, this is a pointer to the expression threshold. All human beings have a certain requirement. I personally perceive this. I mean, I've seen too much examples of this. Like, every human being requires to receive new stuff every day and also requires to compile. Pretty much you need to discover and compile throughout the day. You know, your discovery is the new things you hear. Your how you compile things is how you become familiar again with what you're familiar. You see, think of the landscape of reality as unfamiliar and the familiar patterns. You know, everything you look at, you see a face you know, that's a familiar pattern. You see a face you don't know, that's an unfamiliar pattern. Now, in life, you can choose to have your attention on the unfamiliar patterns, or you could choose to have your attention on the familiar patterns. And it's the same in the inner realms. Eleanor Roosevelt. I am who I am today because of the choices I made yesterday. All right, one last quote, and then I'll go to the guests of today. Maya Angelou. She's an incredible writer, guys. Maya Angelou. She says, it's amazing I can do anything and do it well. Any good thing, I can do it. That's why I am who I am. Yes, because God loves me and I'm amazed at it. I'm grateful for it. Guys, gratefulness, I would say it's a state of mind where when you become preferenceless, there is usually gratefulness. What I mean by that is like when you are okay with the simple, whatever complex thing happens, it's a blessing. Because the inner realms can have so much expectations on the outer realm that they can make the outer realm not even enjoyable. We are under the impression that we require only to move our body to change our state of mind. But we don't realize how we perceive the body is because of the state of mind. So the state of mind requires to change before the body. What does that mean? That means if the person is bored, they literally have to stop accepting the world in the same way and try to find a new corner of it. That's one thing I could tell you. Sometimes in life, a person does something and they get pushed back. Now they could choose to fight, but that's, I would say, anything you input in the system, you experience. If you speak to someone angry, you will experience it in an angry way. You will have experiences of anger. That means, think of it this way. If a child gets angry in its youth and identifies with that anger, that child will not get to live its life. Anger is a possession. You go read, the more you go back in history, the angry person was possessed. The more you come back, the angry person is just pissed off. Yeah. And it took me a while to wonder about what could that possession of anger be. And let me tell you, especially someone who has certain familiar with monotheistic religions and their frameworks, I will tell you, to fight in a changing world is the most incredible waste of time. Violence is the most incredible way to waste time, to waste progress. Richard Rohr, Rohr. What an interesting last name. He says, there is nothing to prove and nothing to protect. I am who I am, and it's enough. Isn't what an exceptional sentence? I am who I am, and it's enough. Yeah, that's the first point of independence, I would say. That if you can't accept yourself, why should others? That if you can't see greatness in yourself, why should others? If the person can't move themselves, why should others? That means, can you imagine a situation where, imagine a person, like this is a thought experiment. Imagine like a person shouts to the sky, God, help me, and the voice comes from the void of causality. And the voice says, hey, I help yourself. I didn't make a mistake when I built you. And that's theology for you. You either think it's a flaw and you have to fix it through the rest of your life, or you think it's not a flaw. You either see perfection first and then you see, or you see imperfection first, really. Anyways, guys, not to go too much on a tangent. Michel Foucault. Do not ask who I am and do not ask me to remain the same. Leave it to our bureaucrats and our police to see that our papers are in order. At least spare us the morality when we are... Okay, I think he's speaking to the news here. All right, guys. Now to Papaji. So I got to give a small explanation about who Papaji, Shri Nisargadatta, Ramana Maharshi are. You see, guys, many people know what yoga pants are, but few people know what yoga is. You know? And what yoga is that the word means union. It means to join. And some people were like, to join what? You know, what am I sitting here on the ground on this lovely grass and like enlightened day to do? What am I doing here? You know? And the point of that union was that the person would notice that there is suffering in this life. Pretty much the Buddha was like this spoiled emperor's uh, son who had never stepped out of the palace, like he was living in a simulation of everything's all good till the end of time. And then he steps out of this palace. His assistant buddy named Ananda takes him out of the palace, and Gautama Siddhartha, the Buddha is a title. The Buddha, he notices there is old age, there is sickness, there is death, there is suffering. You can act like the most powerful, happiest thing here, but things break in this system. It's an entropic universe. Even from a scientific astrophysical standpoint, I would say there's a heat death coming. That means pretty much we're in a system that's going to overheat. That means extinction of existential phenomenology in the universal space is overheating. Do you know? That means we are literally like an overworked engine. Or we will be. We're an engine that's working beyond its expectations. So anyways, this concept, this idea of yoga is union. Union of how you are an individual and how everything is being collective before you were individual. So Papaji was a disciple of Sri Ramana Maharshi, and at the same time there was another person on another part of India named Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, and it was a wave. I will tell you that there were like certain figures from yogic thought that made it into the Western mind. That means I would tell you, like in yogic thought, in Vedanta, you would say Adi Yogi is the first yogi. But when you want to look at the first yogis that came from the east to the west to share the cultural program, I don't know, it goes back to Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda, and Shri Prabhupada. Like it goes, let me see, I think it's Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was I think during the golden age of Hollywood, he was like, yo, people, there's God everywhere, you know? Vivekananda is Vivek in the word means discrimination. So Vivekananda was a person with a sort of crystallized discrimination, I would say. But anyways, the whole point of me saying this to you is that the cultural program was shared. Now, these three people, Ramana Maharshi, Sri Nisargadatta, Maharaj, and Papaji, these were true seekers. And in a world, little did they know that the future is constantly moving more and more towards the artificial being equal to reality. This is what it means when people wonder if video games are going to become indistinguishable from actual reality in the future. Like, you can't tell if life is a video game or not. You know, that's the danger of the future generations. Right now, philosophers are like, hey, is life a dream? In the future, they're going to be like, oh my God, which simulation am I stuck in? You know, which digital simulation is like, is this digital or is it real? You know? That means we are talking about philosophy of the digital realm, but I will tell you, like, the first digital philosophers will be the first human being who has entered cyberspace and in cyberspace is truly wondering about it. Imagine a cyberspace entrance that was full on consciousness of who you were before. All right, let's go and read some Papaji quotes. Pretty much the union of the individual idea with the experience of everything in the moment. Papaji says, if there's peace in your mind, you will find peace with everybody. If your mind is agitated, you will find agitation everywhere. So first, find peace within, and you will see this inner peace reflected everywhere. You are this peace. Papaji is saying, if you don't do anything in this life, you will realize there is a peace here from before. There is a simplicity that if it's not opinionized, it is there. There's a strange, simple peace, not a peacefulness of a complex analysis. Very simple, instantaneous even. Papaji says, you are the unchangeable awareness in which all activity takes place. Papaji says, that ocean of eternal peace is you. What is the difficulty that we suffer from? It is that we seek peace elsewhere and do not experience that we are peace incarnate itself. Papaji says, look within. There's no difference between yourself, self, and guru. You are always free. There's no teacher, there's no student, there's no teaching, Yeah, guys, Papaji's like this dude who a bunch of people came. They're like, Papaji, you enlightened man. They're all like, let us be your disciples. And Papaji's like, what are you guys saying? It's like, what disciple? What student? There is no teaching. It's like, what teacher? It's experience. You're your eyes in a world. Your eyes in their own shoes. Technically, my eyes are wearing shoes now. Papaji says, when you stop thinking, you're no longer imagining things that are not true. This is the power of silence and stillness and that hyper attention. I often say in these talks that comes if you accept the most simplicity of the realm. That's it. Accept the simplicity of the realm and you stop suffering. Want the simplicity to always be complex, you suffer. That means people don't maybe realize that we are considering that the proper way to improve ourselves is to access more. But it's actually when we want to access less, we actually get to see more and we actually access more. So you can say when you're in a moment, so I'll give you a personal example. In high school, there was this girl who I had an incredible crush on. In my mind, I had put her on this pedestal that I had overwhelmed myself from talking to her. So when she would come to talk to me, I was like, I would overwhelm myself and I would just be quiet and, not engage. So, so what I'm trying to say is that's pretty much what Papaji is saying. When you stop thinking, you're no longer imagining things that are not true. I was trying to see who she was before actually knowing who she was. I had made an extracted assumption of the moment. So that's what I'm trying to say, that it was as if something I had created, something from within was blurring actually what was happening without. Papaji says now is the time to have a direct introduction to this moment. By the way, guys, welcome to this moment. Papaji says now is the time to have a direct introduction to this moment. This moment is free of time, of mind, of any notions. Introduce yourself to this moment. I mean, that's an incredible idea, no? That we introduce ourselves to many people, but have we ever introduced ourselves to our whole universal moment of being? Just take that in. Maybe this is something that Papaji is encouraging people to do. Whoever you are, go in nature, go alone in nature, look at the universe, and say hi to the whole universe, your whole moment, and introduce yourself. I know he's not saying it, do it literally. Papaji's just saying just realize the nature of the presence of your attention prior to the personality's belief. That's what Papaji's saying, but I'm telling you guys, literally go do this. Introduce yourself to the moment. The moment is alive, but it's not alive as an individual. This is why the only way, if there is superior intelligence surpassing the Terran form of the human body, it's like the mind doesn't have an alphabet. The mind's alphabet isn't like separate drops that have to be put together. It's like a river. So the issue is, if you think life is a drop, you're going to fear its evaporation, you're not going to live properly. If you realize life is meant to be lived as a river is a collective intelligence with the potential of individuality. It's like a collective system, but has individual direction. Papaji says, look within. Oh no, I read that. Papaji says, let your will burn in this fire so that it takes you nowhere else. Let yourself be burned in this fire of eternity, love, and peace. Don't be afraid of this fire. It is love itself. This desire for freedom is the fire of love. What he means is spend enough time with nature until you suddenly go, oh, I am nature. That simple recognition that you are a natural being is more profound than any sort of artificial robotic morality. You realizing that we are living beings, becoming life sensitive, that regardless of the class, color, creed, there's an unknown mind trying to express itself through a body. Like, just the fact that people are unknown minds, that means it's like, it's hilarious, but they said respect your elders. I realized, no. Respect the unknown. It doesn't matter if it moves through through the elders or through the youth of the civilization. That means when you see people, here's the thing, the competitive urge is dismissive, that the point is for everybody to climb the mountain, not for everybody to compare how everybody is climbing on to getting to the mountain. Every person is like an activity. Sometimes when you ask, like, here's the question. Because we're made of cells, we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of a single cell? And it's self-replication. And so what we see is that people are replicating themselves through others to expand the vision of the mind. That means it's strange. It's literally like we can either be bunch of rivers into the ocean, bunch of drops being a river, or just the ocean. There's so many ways you can open your eyes to this realm. But when you befriend it, when man attends to nature's responsibility, I am telling you, it's fun being an individual. It has its advantages to just be a self that's selling fish, a selfish self. It's super easy to just make the self the center of the universe and discard any care for anything outside of the range of that defined self. But I would say the true scholar is like the explorer. The explorer isn't saying like, it's not acting like it knows what's in the unknown. The explorer knows the unknown is there, knows that it knows a little bit, and it goes forth. That's it. There is no perfection, I would say. Just get to know enough to get by, because it changes. Papaji says, detach yourself from those things which are not permanent and rest in that which is always permanent. What he means is the unconditional being. That means make sure you see how peaceful this world was before the pieces are no more. That means the chess game, it's not about just checkmating the opponent. It's about if you are enjoying the game you play. This is the biggest secret to success. It's not hard work. It's enjoying something that you can, I would say anything that the person looks at and they can see themselves have endless endurance towards. If you pursue that, you will succeed. Any space of life where the person feels it's okay for them to put an effort, they can build there. Papaji says, surrounded by nothingness, you have to do nothing. You have to do nothing to be who you are. Nothing at all. Papaji says, when you know that you're meditating, it is not meditation. Guys, the whole point of meditation was inseparability of the individual activity and the cosmic activity. That means if you're meditating, there is no concept of meditation, there is no concept of meditator. It's pre-thought. Papaji says, nobody wants to work. Not even the breath wants to work. Papaji says you have to simply become aware of the movement of the mind, which begins this endless trouble. Papaji says if you see the illusion, you're enlightened. But if you think that you're enlightened, you're in the illusion. Because it's not conceptual. The whole point is our experiences are like the part of the iceberg that we don't see. The roots of nature is not conceptual. And that is the species' greatest finding, I would say. Papaji says, if you identify with what comes and goes, you will be unhappy. If you identify with what is permanent and always there, you are happiness itself. Oh my God, guys, this is the fastest way to be happy. Don't identify with the temporary. Not with the temporary, what comes and goes. What that means is, like, if I think the whole universe has to be in a certain position, if it changes, that's the beautiful thing about nature. Whatever we try to do to make it known, it just smiles from a distance in unknown ways. Smiles from the distance in unknown ways. Papaji says, look here and know who you are. Instantly you will find freedom. And this suffering dash hitchhiking from womb to womb will instantly stop. The only way is to look within. Papaji says, one is always free and one is always alone. The mind is only dreaming. Papaji says meditation is to effortlessly turn the mind toward that energy which energizes mind. Imagine somebody in the street goes up to someone and says, hey, how can I get to the source? And the person's like, oh, you mean the store? Okay, you got to go there. The person's like, no, 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 no. I mean the source of my mind. Papaji, Papaji says, keep quiet. Don't touch the thoughts. Let them be. Let the poor thoughts be, guys. Thoughts, I feel like for the first time, thoughts need a lawyer. Somebody has to defend these poor thoughts from people thinking they're them. You know? Thoughts deserve freedom. Thoughts. Oh, man. Sorry, guys, I'm feeling a bit silly here. Papa G says the way to live a happy, beautiful life is to accept whatever comes and not care about what does not come. Okay. Papa G says if you address the mind with who you are, it will disappear. Papa G says, what is the purpose of human life? To return home. Wow. And that return home, the reason I'm saying wow is because where do you think home can be? I would say Papa G hit the ball out of the park. We are like this unknown moment that's trying to know itself. And all the prophets and sages were like, know thyself. That means know yourself. And as we go to know ourselves, we realize the known is in the unknown. It's like the roots of the tree are not visible, but they are there. They are holding the tree. And I would say the roots of human intelligence are not visible, but they are here. They are the here and now. Papaji says understanding and not understanding are all in the scheme of ignorance, just a realm of the mind. This is not learning. This is your birthright. You cannot study to be what you are. You do not need to understand in order to breathe. What Papaji is saying is like, do you need to study a bird to see how a bird flies? No. You can instantly see how the bird flies. And if you realize what knowledge has been, is as people have literally been seeing direct experiences of nature, and the person has been conceiving it, containing it. I would say there is no one type of knowledge because everybody has a different DNA. Everybody's a different container of the known information. So that means we are knowing what we are knowing, and that's the personal inner realm filter over the outer realm. Papaji says, find where the ego rises from and it will disappear. Papaji says, thoughts are impediments to seeing your own face. Don't give rise to any thought and discover who you are. Yeah, but the issue is the thought is never there. That means if these yogis realize they never needed to speak about thought, in the sense that it's like the problem. See, some people don't realize. Some people it is true. Sometimes you have to define the problem before you can fix it. But sometimes before not defining the problem is how the moment gets fixed. That means if somebody, let's say you are with a close friend, and this close friend suddenly freaks out and does something incredibly rude or something, Now the mentality is like, this is unacceptable, some sort of banishment. But I'm telling you, the attitude I have learned is to not make statues of people in our mind and realize, like the weather changes, so does the constitution of the living being as it decides where it moves and how it moves, or even what it is to consider even movement. That means it's like, if we don't have the concept of legs, we can't talk about walking, And if we don't have the concept of mind, we cannot talk about living. So there has to be the concept of an unknown mind. The coolest thing about life right now is not that we know anything, it's that we don't know anything. That's the best part of life, that it's still unknown, that there is still uncharted territory, and people don't realize it's so early in the civilization's development. Everybody should be an explorer. If there's a follower, it's like, what are you doing? As Sebastian Maniscalco says. That means, let me tell you, on a battlefield, imagine there's a soldier running and there's a soldier just following this soldier behind him. And the soldier's like, what are you doing, bro? Look at the battlefield. Don't look at the soldier in front of you. The whole point of it is to realize your eyes deserve their life. And that as simply as the inefficient self could enter the mind, the efficient self could enter. You know? People are making it too easy to see themselves as inefficient, I would say. It's becoming, this is why it's not an advanced civilization, because it's easier to be weak than strong here. It should be easier to be strong here in this civilization. You know? That means right now, if we had a time travel machine and we went back into like medieval times, and let's say a group of people now back in that day, they had to like hold swords and run a battlefield, the person would be like, yo, this sword is too heavy. It's uncomfortable in my hand. I don't like the weather. You know, it's like, you know, I'm tired. And the person, and imagine like you've time traveled back to your ancestors, and your ancestors are just looking at you and being like, is this my future self? Is the future really going to be so fragile, so weak? Let me tell you, pretty much this is the idea. If we choose to live as minds, we will access multidimensional living. If we choose to continue activities of just pure materialistic ignorance, here's the thing. In all those moments that the soldier was fighting, the warrior was fighting, the scholar was also reading. And so it is so much worth it to contribute to the victory of the inner realms of the species, because sometimes we have to change the inner to change the outer. What does that mean? That means I remember seeing this video that there's this very gorgeous girl like standing at an ATM getting money from the ATM. There's a guy behind her, and then there's another guy behind the guy behind her, you know, all in a line waiting for the ATM. And the guy behind her is like a bit mischievous. So what he does is he goes and slaps the girl in the behind, you know, and then the girl just turns around and slaps the guy who didn't do it, you know, that's behind her. Do you know? And the guy is laughing and he's like, all right, we got 1 million YouTube views right now, you know? So it was one of those situations where the girl turned around and she was certain that the guy behind her had done it, not knowing the guy behind her had done it. So if that girl could turn around and before having slapped the guy behind her, she just asked who did it, and the guy would say, do you know? Then she could have implemented her efforts towards the right direction. She could have changed her mind if she slowed down her mind. That means just like driving, the higher the speed, the more harder it is to turn instantly. Do you know? But the slower your speed, the easier it is to turn. So you can say if you are in a very fast-paced moment, the person may not have the tolerance to actually look at something before they accept how they're seeing it is the only way of it being. That's the whole issue. That's why there was language wars, you know, because if you think about it, if there was endless patience, let's say like a video game, there was a patience bar and it had like an infinity sign on it, you had infinite patience, you know, then there would be no war. Because you are patient, you will discuss until an outcome is found. That means I have this view that the nations should 24/7 till the end of time be in negotiations. You know? The whole point is, like, if there's endurance, eventually new things will be found in the system. New elements to the system will be discovered. I will tell you, problems that I could not solve when I was younger, years later I saw all the dimensions to it that I had missed when I was younger. And Papaji, to end off Papaji's quote tunnel here, he says, find where the ego rises from and it will disappear. Find the source of your suffering and your suffering is no longer suffering. And man has been free before he didn't need to be, before he would convince himself a story of not being free, you know? Because we are playing costume games. The species is like one giant night of Halloween, where the Halloween costumes are just language. And people are forgetting to actually live in the system. And due to the you would say, I don't want to say corruption in society, but I want to say it's just people haven't cared yet. What if somebody said, what if there was a genie, or let's say, what if there was, let's say the universe wanted to gift the human being, and the universe was like, human being, you can have anything, and so what's your wish? You can have anything. And the human being, imagine, looks at that source and says, I know. That's it. That's the secret. That when you're wondering if you can have anything, if you know, you know. There's something powerful about our eyes. I don't know, sometimes I feel an idea is like something sent forth. I mean, of course, every person has a different, entertains a different inner landscape, but for me, sometimes when I speak, it's as if I am running. It's strange. I feel like motion. It's as if my mind is living a life and the body is in a very calm and still way remembering it. And as Ram Dass says, when you hug a tree, you are not hugging a tree. You are hugging yourself. When you look at this world and you judge it, you are not judging the world. You are judging yourself. When you look at this world and you see advancement, guess what? The void judges itself too, but its judgment is empty, so nothing happens. It's like, what was emptiness's opinion on emptiness? I guess silence is the true answer. So guys, now we shall go into a quote tunnel of Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj. A man who went from nothing to everything and back. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj he says, in the mirror of your mind, all kinds of pictures appear and disappear. Knowing that they are entirely your own creations, watch them silently come and go. Be alert, but not perturbed. This attitude of silent observation is the very foundation of yoga. You see the picture, but you are not the picture. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says your weakness is due to your conviction that you were born into the world. In reality, the world is ever recreated in you and by you. See everything as emanating from the light which is the source of your own being. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, realize that your world is only a reflection of yourself, and stop finding fault with the reflection. Attend to yourself. Set yourself right, mentally and emotionally. The physical self will follow automatically. That means set your heart straight, give the right commands to your mind, and the body will, in some sense, perform. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, to know that you are a prisoner of your mind is the dawn of wisdom. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, shift your attention from words to silence and you will hear. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, once you realize that the world is your own projection, you are free of it. You need not free yourself of a world that does not exist. It does not exist except in your own imagination. However is the picture beautiful or ugly, you are painting it and you're not bound by it. Realize that there's nobody to force it on you, that it is due to the habit of taking the imaginary to be real. See the imaginary as imaginary and be free of fear. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, instead of searching for what you do not have, find out what it is that you have never lost. Incredible algorithm. Wow. This is such an incredible mystical algorithm, guys, this quote. You know, let me tell you how hilarious this world can be. Imagine two people, one person has a mouse in their hand, and they come up to another person and they're like, hey man, do you have a mouse? And the person's like, yeah, I have a mouse. And then he's like, how do you take care of your mouse? And the person's like, what do you mean? You know? And the person, it's like, do you give cheese to your mouse? And he's like, no, my mouse is connected to my computer, you know? That's how a word can have multiple meanings. You know, what does that mean? One existential moment can have multiple realistic probabilities. You can see a coffee cup and be like, no way, in one parallel dimension I'm picking it up with my right hand, in another parallel dimension I'm picking it up with my left hand, you know? Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, when I look inside and see that I am nothing, that's wisdom. When I look outside and see that I'm everything, that's love. And in between these two, my life turns. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Because if you think about fear logically, it has to have content. And content is design. So technically, the content of fear is not what to be feared. People are fearing the outcome of things. They're not actually fearing the fear. You know, I mean, sure. I mean, if there's a grizzly bear in the physical realms, like if you're seeing a grizzly bear running at you, like that movie, so the person needs to do something then, you know. What I'm trying to say is that in the outer realms, it is not based all on your free will, but in the inner realms, your free will is truly, it's a true throne of your attention. What that means is the unknown witness is royalty. And all the elemental phenomenology is serving it. When you realize that your body is waiting for instructions from your mind, then the person wonders, what is my mind waiting for? What instructions is my mind waiting for? And then they realize they are the instruction generator. That means once you have an ability to accept the simple, then after some time, you get to accept the complex. And when you accept the complex becomes simple, and the new dimensions of complexity open up. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, know yourself to be the changeless witness of the changeful mind. That is enough. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, excuse me, the ultimate point of view is that there's nothing to understand. So when we try to understand, we're only indulging in acrobatics of the mind. Whatever you have understood, you are not. Why are you getting lost in concepts? You are not what you know, you are the knower. So I would say to know that you are the knower is an unknown instant of awareness. That's how I perceive it, at least. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says we miss the real by lack of attention and create the unreal by excess of imagination. Wow. Okay. Once you realize that the road is the goal and that you are always on the road, not to reach a goal but to enjoy its beauty and its wisdom, life ceases to be a task and becomes natural and simple, in itself an ecstasy. And in Vedanta we have this concept where Jai Satchit Ananda, conscious existence is bliss. That means once the person realizes existence is an instant of consciousness, and consciousness is not an object, there's a bliss that's found. I remember in one thing I wrote tears of samadhi eyes or welcome tears, something like that. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, once you realize that the road is the goal and that you're always on the road, oh no, sorry, I read that. He says there's no need of a way out. Don't you see that a way out is also part of the dream? All you have to do is see the dream as dream. Wherever it leads you, it will be a dream. The very idea of going beyond the dream is illusory. Why go anywhere? Just realize that you're dreaming a dream you call the world and stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your problem. Your problem is that you like one part of your dream and not another. Love all or none of it and stop complaining. When you have seen the dream as a dream, you have done all that needs to be done. It's honesty with the inner realms. You got to be honest with your inner realms. That's the eyes that the lights have been in before. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, when you sit quiet and watch yourself, many things may come to the surface. Do nothing about them. Don't react to them. As they have come, so will they go by themselves. All that matters is mindfulness, total awareness of oneself, or rather of one's mind. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says you cannot change the course of events, but you can change your attitude, and what really matters is the attitude and not the mere event. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, do not neglect this body. This is the house of God. Take care of it. Only this body can God be realized. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, if you seek reality, you must set yourself free of all backgrounds, of all cultures, of all patterns of thinking and feeling. Even the idea of being man or woman or even human should be discarded. The ocean of life contains all, not only humans. First of all, abandon all self-identification. Stop thinking of yourself as such and such or so and so, this or that. Abandon all self-concern. Worry not about your welfare, material or spiritual. Abandon every desire, gross or subtle. Stop thinking of achievement of any kind. You are complete here and now. You need absolutely nothing. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says all happiness comes from awareness. The more we are conscious, the deeper the joy. Acceptance of pain, non-resistance, courage, and endurance. These open deep and perennial sources of real happiness, true bliss. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, don't rely on your mind for liberation. It is the mind that brought you into bondage. Go beyond it altogether. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, you will receive everything you need when you stop asking for what you do not need. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, there's only one meditation, the rigorous refusal to harbor thoughts. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, the problem is not yours, it is your mind's only. Begin by disassociating yourself from your mind. Resolutely remind yourself that you are not the mind and that its problems are not yours. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, the moment you know your real being, you're afraid of nothing. Death gives freedom and power. To be free in the world, you must die to the world. Then the universe is your own. It becomes your body, an expression and a tool. The happiness of being absolutely free is beyond description. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, to see myself in everybody and everybody in myself most certainly is love. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says that it has nothing to do with effort. Just turn away. Look between the thoughts rather than at the thoughts. When you happen to walk in a crowd, you do not fight every man you meet. You just find your way between. When you fight, you invite a fight. But when you do not resist, you meet no resistance. When you refuse to play the game, you're out of it. And the last quote from Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, if you could only keep quiet, clear of memories and expectations, you would be able to discern the beautiful pattern of events. It's your restlessness that causes chaos. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, I will say this as the last quote actually, he says, when you demand nothing of the world, nor of God, when you want nothing, seek nothing, expect nothing, then the Supreme State will come to you uninvited and unexpected. Let us not fear the galactic archetypal atmosphere that is awaiting the species. Today we are identifying as something from the dirt that stood up. Tomorrow we will return to the universal mind, you know. Guys, I would like to go into a quote tunnel of Sri Ramana Maharshi. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, whatever is destined not to happen will not happen, try as you may. Whatever is destined to happen will happen, do what you may to prevent it. This is certain. The best course, therefore, is to remain silent. Ramana Maharshi says, thoughts come and go, feelings come and go. Find out what it is that remains. Ramana Maharshi says, happiness is your nature. It is not wrong to desire it. What is wrong is seeking it outside when it is inside. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, correcting oneself is correcting the whole world. The sun is simply bright. It does not correct anyone because it shines. The whole world is full of light. Transforming yourself is a means of giving light to the whole world. Ramana Maharshi says the question, who am I, is not really meant to get an answer. The question, who am I, is meant to dissolve the questioner. Ramana Maharshi says, why should you trouble yourself about the future? You do not even properly know about the present. Take care of the present. The future will take care of itself. Ramana Maharshi says, silence is truth. Silence is bliss, silence is peace, and hence silence is the self. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, there is no past nor future, there is only the present. Yesterday was the present to you when you experienced it, and tomorrow will also be the present when you experience it. Therefore, experience takes place only in the present, and beyond experiencing nothing exists. And beyond experience, nothing exists. Ramana Maharshi says, your true nature is that of infinite spirit. The feeling of limitation is the work of the mind. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, peace is the inner nature of humankind. If you find it within yourself, you will then find it everywhere. We live in the advanced civilization within. That means that's one thing we never thought. An advanced civilization begins from within and then steps out, like an invention. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, you are awareness. Awareness is another name for you. Since you are awareness, there is no need to attain or cultivate it. All that you have to do is to give up being aware of other things. That is of the not dash self. If one gives up being aware of them, then pure awareness alone remains, and that is the self. Sri Ramana Maharshi says one should remain as a witness to whatever happens, adopting the attitude, in quotations, let whatever strange things that happen, let us see. This should be one's practice. Nothing happens by accident in the divine scheme of things. What does that mean? In the movie Gladiator, there was something similar, where it's like a deleted scene and Maximus is underneath the Colosseum before he's lifted up to fight defeat the weak emperor. And his general buddy, who at the beginning of the film betrayed him, he comes to Maximus and says, I am a soldier. I will obey. The army is here. He's pretty much saying, like, I can get you out of here. And Maximus laughs at him and says something, I don't remember the exact quote, but he says something like, nature, nothing happens to anyone that nature has not prepared them to bear. And so that's the cool thing, that when you stop defining, I would say, what the world has to be, you see what it is. It is a wind of continuity. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, no one succeeds without effort. Those who succeed owe their success to perseverance. Then in the picture there's an ant holding a giant leaf. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, the Lord of the universe carries the entire burden of this world. Of course he was a yogi, guys, keep in mind. You imagine, the Lord of the universe carries the entire burden of this world. You imagine you do. You can hand all your burdens over to his care. Whatever you have to do, you will be made an instrument for doing it at the right time. Do not think you cannot do it unless you have the desire to do it. Desire does not give you the strength for doing. The entire strength is the Lord's. I would interpret this as kind of like, you know how there was the concept of the mage? And the mage was moving the elements of reality as if it was his hand. That means, imagine like you could control water and you were looking at a pond and you made the water in the pond rise exactly replicating how your hand was, you know? So I would say it's as if at that point, it's like the strength is not you. It's like the water is the hand, but your hand is the mind for the water. Do you know what I mean? Like in that situation. Ramana Maharshi says, take refuge in silence. You can be here or there or anywhere. Fixed in silence. Established in the inner, in quotations, I. You can be as you are. The world will never perturb you if you are well founded upon the tranquility within. Gather your thoughts within. Find out the thought center and discover your self-equipose. In storm and turmoil, be calm and silent. Watch the events around as a witness. The world is a drama. Be a witness, interned and introspective. Ramana Maharshi says the entire universe is condensed in the body and the entire body in the heart. Thus, the heart is the nucleus of the whole universe. Sri Ramana Maharshi says your duty is to be, with a capital B, be, and not to be this or that. Sri Ramana Maharshi says the thing to do is concentrate on the seer and not on the seen, S-E-E-N, not on the objects but on the light which reveals them. Sri Ramana Maharshi says, place your burden at the feet of the Lord of the universe, who is ever victorious and accomplishes everything. Remain all the time steadfast in the heart in the transcendental absolute. God knows the past, present, and future. He will determine the future for you and accomplish the work, what is to be done or will be done at the proper time. Don't worry, abide in the heart and surrender your acts to the divine. Guys, the yogic God is more closer to Spinoza's God. that Albert Einstein considered. It's not a God of a like a shape or a form specifically. It's a God of how nature is being intelligent as one event. Sri Ramana Maharshi says we're so engrossed with the objects or the appearances revealed by the light that we pay no attention to the light. You know, Ramana Maharshi's right, guys. It's pretty much the person like waking up and being like, "Oh my God, is the world in my eyes right now? Is the light beam like what?" Sri Ramana Maharshi says, grace is always present. You imagine it as something high in the sky, far away, something that has to descend. It is really inside you, in your heart. When the mind rests in its source, grace rushes forth, sprouting as from a spring within you. Sri Ramana Maharshi says the greatest obstacle to enlightenment is getting past your delusion that you're not already enlightened. Sri Ramana Maharshi says all unhappiness is due to the ego. With it comes all your trouble. If you would deny the ego and scorch it by ignoring it, you would be free. Sri Ramana Maharshi says silence is never-ending speech. Vocal speech obstructs the other speech of silence. In silence, one is in intimate contact with the surroundings. Language is only a medium for communicating one's thoughts to another. Silence is ever speaking. That means silent, like technically every sound is the speech of silence. Sri Ramana Maharshi says you have to ask yourself the question, who am I? This investigation will lead in the end to the discovery of something within you which is behind the mind. Solve that great problem, you will solve all the other problems. Yeah, that problem is literally we have to usher ourselves in a multidimensional lifestyle. We have feared the multidimensional. We have been fighting over the world to have to look a certain way, and then us feeling we found some sort of perfection. But little do we know there is so much random variables to the system that really it's just the only sign of intelligence is integrative unification. Because everything has been chaotic, you know, and even in Greek mythology you would consider like the origin of the universe. I mean, there was chaos, like legit chaos, and then there was Chronos. But I would say chaos is the suggestion that there was no order in the universe. And so human beings are putting the world in order. If you notice, that is what pretty much organization, discipline, what we feel organized knowledge is. The educational system should have the honesty to go to the student and be like, nobody knows better than you what is. I would say it like this, it's like the educational system does not empower the child, it takes the power of the child. I mean, it definitely takes the financial power of the child. But anyways, so guys, let me put the picture of these people, by the way. These three people, this episode was pretty much a tribute to them. And the concept of I am. Because they asked, what's his name? Nisargadatta Maharaj, who are you? And he says, I am that. It's like the unspeakable being, regardless of how we interpret what we do. So guys, top left corner, that's Papaji. Lower left corner is Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Sorry, Sri Ramana Maharshi is the bottom left. And the bottom right is Nisargadatta Maharaj. Just so people can see who these people were. Imagine, whoever's listening to this, imagine we all got on a ship and we went to a civilization, let's say on another planet in another star system, and we were studying that civilization from with our stealth ship in the atmosphere of that civilization. And imagine we saw that that civilization was the strange civilization where people would be born, they would put boxes on their head, and they would go on in civilization stumbling, you know? And so we're watching this civilization. It's like, why is this civilization putting a box over its head for us? And imagine, let's say you put a hole in the box, you know, so they could see, like you create a, let's say, small rectangle in the box where you could see. Imagine like a cubic helmet or something, you know. You would see we're putting the box, those creatures would be putting on the box to be individual, then they would take off the box. So you would say you need language maybe for 25 years of your life to then be able to take that box off and realize something more, if we were to somehow compare this to the human idea. That means people have to start thinking more and more like a universal tribe. Because when I really look at life in three-dimensional space, like the space-time continuum, the outer realms, it's like a film. And sometimes you wonder, it's like, why are films made? To be seen. It's as if all this phenomenology is here to be noticed. It's like we've designed to notice a world of design. We are the I am. This is the greatest insight. To let the dream be a dream, and also realize the moment you do, you can also let the awakening be an awakening. Sincerity is the key to a door that's always changing. Because there's moments in my inner realms, I'm telling you, if the person feels weak in the outer realms, they shouldn't care about mysticism too much. First, like manage the outer realms, and if the outer realms are chill enough, then the person can navigate in their inner realms very smoothly, you know? Because there is a sort of program to living here. Perhaps to see freedom in a changing world would technically mean an endless updating definition. So what the error our species has made is that we have treated concepts not having evolutionary potential. That means, you know, that's the thing. Concepts, ideology is acting like an immortal. That means think as if people are walking in the streets, and because people have ideas, it's not just people, also ideas are walking in the streets, you know, of humanity. So the thing is, the ideology tends to act immortal, you know? That means it's as if the person's been changing this whole time and they think they're just their name. It's just like attention holding language while the whole universe is changing, you know? The mind must roar as a soul beyond the body, as an unknown soul beyond the known body. Nature's authority is a silent command. There's this suggestion, I will tell you, for me, I guess I'll bring up this idea. The concept of the apocalypse is, for me, the death of existence. So right now we can notice the end of our experience. We can notice our experience is temporary. We can be aware of our presence, as all these yogis were suggesting. But that's the thing. The experience, they think as if there's two journeys taking place, an existential journey and an experiential journey. The experiential journey is temporary. The existential journey is endless. That means if I identified as nature, I never die. But if I identify as like a fragmented idea, then it's like the person is not. It's like you're hollow to begin with. There's a saying, George Patton says, you must serve before you command. And back in the day, the sages would say the mind is a lousy master, but it's a great servant. So what does that mean? You need to serve nature's intelligence until you can command it. And the reason the person is, at least from a Vedic standpoint, they're in the human incarnation, is because you have seen nature so far. Do you know what I mean? That means you can look at this life, oh my God, why am I here? It makes no sense. Or you can look at this life, oh my God, now I'm here. Now I'm here. The show begins. You know, I'm in, my eyes open in the morning. That's when the party begins for me, you know? I mean, it's incredible. We are like positions in nature. We're a conscious position in nature. Sometimes you look at reality and you're like, nothing makes sense. You feel justified to doubt everything. And there's moments where you're like, oh my God, everything is the senses. What can I doubt? You know? I feel we are in a symbiosis with a universal being. We don't realize it. It's not even ideological. Language, from my whole view, is language can't contain truth. That means those people who are worshiping language, you know, I say we went from idol worship to idea worship, subject worship, where worshiping our attention is being limited to just a thought, not realizing that it's like, have you ever been the same thing? No, every day, in some sense, there is a change. I mean, there is the unchanging presence of attention, but that's not a thing. So you would say a subject feels superior to an object, but a subject does not feel superior to a subject. But that which is beyond the subject is superior than the object, any type of relationship with the object or subject. Because it's a very strange notion, you know, from, I would say, an monotheistic religious standpoint. It's as if, like, if God is moving everything, why does man need to do anything about God? Do you know? That means why is the message required? That means it's like, was the Creator's creation imperfect? You know what I mean? I would say this is a very important theological question. that how is there a need for instruction? Was there a mistake in how the phenomenon was built that it needs a message? You know, there it's like it's a very important question. I mean, we all know we're natural beings, but why don't we feel natural? That means I think this is a good question. Whoever's suffering, ask yourself what percentage of your suffering is object-based, what percentage of your suffering is subject-based. If your percentage, if more than 50% of the issue is subject-based, you can instantly change it. The mind is your jurisdiction. Your attention behind your eyes is your God. Your first God, I could say. Your first, it's like the first visit to the unknown. The moment when the person sees the mirror, that's really, Jacques Lacan says the mirror effect. For me, that's also the first time, that's the potential, that's the seed of mysticism. To look at your eyes and realize that there is way more unknown than known here, than the known. I feel it's an event, this nature, that it just requires to be engaged. I mean, think about like as if you've paid for Tomorrowland, this epic, you know, EDM concert, you know, and so you're in Tomorrowland, but you're not. You've put like earmuffs on. You're not hearing the concert. Imagine. So that's the thing. For me, it's not about too much renunciation. It's in your inner realms. Renounce the outer realms, but in the outer realms, build an advanced civilization. What greater game is there to play? That means, can you imagine if we were building something so great, people would just wait, can't, like, imagine, right now people can't wait to finish work and go home. But imagine we build a civilization with such advanced endeavors and aims that people can't wait to wake up. They can't wait to go to work. Like the moment it's like the person jumps out of bed already wearing their suit. That's how much the guy wanted to go to work, you know? The ocean holds many currents within it, but it is still one ocean. That's the most important thing. I feel like elementary school should just be used to educate the child on human perception. In Japan, they do something I was very fascinated by this. That evidently in the Japanese educational system, for 5 years they don't teach the kid anything like on like a like in the concept base. They teach the kid character. They teach the kid behavior, discipline. And I was like, wow, you know. So at a young age, the child doesn't have a reference to complain. The child can't be like, I don't want to do this. The child has nothing, no additional dimension to not want to do it. You know, so whatever, so if complex tasks I feel elementary school should actually be, the most complex ideas can be taught there. Not even complex ideas taught, just, I'm saying behavior is important. Children like to play games, and if we make, imagine in the future, there schools, you just go in, you have these glasses, virtual reality glasses, these advanced cyberspace goggles, and you have these goggles on, and the moment you enter the school, it becomes literally like, imagine like like that, what was that video, like Sword Art Online. It becomes like a fantasy world. You're walking in the school, there's dragons, the principal of the school literally looks like, I don't know, you know, Gandalf, you know, like, some, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm telling you that the, the game we play can change. That means with those cyberspace goggles, imagine you enter like a science class, you know, and you go into that science class, and the ground, the floor underneath where all the tables are is like a spectrum of the whole universe. So can you imagine children entering, like, let's say, an astrophysics I mean, let's say science class, simple science class, and there's just pretty much the universe underneath their feet, you know? Because that's the power of science. Science has some, even though I would say I'm not a pure materialist, but I will tell you, like, um, the thing about science is that it has the arrogance to look at things anew, which is a good type of arrogance. It's a good. It's not arrogance, I would say. It's boldness, but it becomes arrogance when it wants to do the same thing as religion does. Let me tell you, that's the error. You can't. What was it? Mark Twain. He says, if you fight a muddy pig, you will get muddy. And that's the issue. That's what science has done. It has tried to fight culture, not realizing its core value is based on a method. That means if we treat every person's eyes as like a camera, and people are just changing camera lenses. That's it. They're different models of spectrumizing, seeing a value system into the moment. The issue is emotions make reality irrational. And as long as we have emotions, we can't just calculate living. When the whole universe becomes inseparable from how you breathe, regardless of the I am, acceptance is the ability for the new to begin. I would say we should just pilot our attention. That's what's happening. We're attention technically roaming through elemental vehicle, through an elemental vehicle. Because right now, before I speak, literally it feels like, you know how you drive and you see through the front view, front window, like into, uh, like much further ahead in the road, like a Tetris game before you uh, adjust. So similarly, when I'm speaking, it's like the meaning of these words for me, it's being generated in the inner realms, and I'm attributelessly witnessing it. I am watching the moment as the whole moment, so all meaning is in one place. Oh yeah, I remembered, guys. In the subtitle, I've written "Eyes of the Only." The Only is a poetry work I wrote years ago. I guess I'll make this part for audience engagement. Excuse me, guys. I need to chug this coffee. Just hold on. Okay. remember, guys, to be a human being means to be able to continue. So I wrote this book in 2016, this poetry collection. It's called The Only. Reverence of the unkind. You who have dwelled in the belly of the beast, where is the hunger of all existence going? Some have found madmen to be wiser than the wisest, and the totality of your being is joy ready to take its seat. The officials in all official contracts have been ripped apart. Are you the extraterrestrial allowance that you shall become? For the compass of the compassionate was always compassion. There are no eyes that do not belong to you. If infinity tapped you on the shoulder, would you be able to feel the touch of all existence? All structures have been broken, all names have dissolved into the moment. The road belongs to the heart of the clear. Take all shapes and drop them in the ocean of your devotion, for the unshaped never needed shaping. You carry too much when infinity never needed luggage. Are you free? Can such a question march into your temple like this? What emotions give all motion its feeling? What emotions give all motion its feeling? The unkind have forgotten of the rewind button. For you were never here and I was never I. In the end of ends there is only one. For once the sky looks at you, you're no longer faced. All masks have been broken, the only is felt. So guys, there's 6 viewers, there's 27 poems, 1 out of 27. 3 people may choose any number. I don't know, guys. I'm doing this for the audience. If the audience doesn't want to choose, it's totally fine. I mean, pretty much I'm reading out of this poetry work. Let me see what number 17 is. Number 17 is Hidden Stations. Has the train left? Has death found life? In the mystic's eyes, he never needed the satisfaction of the blind. Who is so kind to have left you untouched? The benches on this platform might be promising, but there is a pull that is its own push. In finding the self of selves, eternity was clear in its transparency. Is there an elaborate hoax in this view? Some men have lost themselves to be found as their own savior. A kind remark from a holy ghost, the land seeks enlightenment too. Is your danger real for an eternal gaze? The heart of man never lost its way. Dissolve all masks with playfulness, for the orders of a chaotic general were never for structured ears. For when man did not listen, truth spoke to everything else. As your eyes are centered in their emptiness, your transparency is the nature of the celestial door. You think you are hidden. How wrong could be the eyes of the world? Okay, so Billy says number 9. Let's see what that is. You know, it's like asking someone who's German. It's like, hey man, what number in this poem do you want? And it's like, what number do you want from this poem? And the person's like, 9. You know, and you're like, hey, what does that mean? You want me to read the poem, or you want number 9? I don't no, sorry guys, it's a silly joke. Okay, let's see what number 9 is. Clarity of the crystal. The sun and moon were never fighting. Do not give your illusion a mouth to utter. Okay, sorry guys, to continue. Do not give your illusion a mouth to utter common sense. For a drowning man who ignores the actuality of water has died in many ways. Be your own savior and step off your throne. Listen to the peasant's whispers to truly find the value of your crown. It is healthy to be a madman lost in love, for you have found yourself so close to the hole. Your eyes were never eyes, and your road was never here. Could one man speak for all men? It is only the mind that has forgotten to accept existential chaos when order was your own footprint. There is no one like you. Remember your face in a transparent mirror as you bloom. A nameless task to forget all words. All worlds have become memorable. Oh, my beloved stranger, it is only love that shall let you go. A crystal mind from a crystal sky, the clarity of the wise was always beyond. So that's number 9, guys. We have number 6 from Lauren. All right, let's see what number 6 is. So guys, there was so I wanted to bring that German joke for the number 6, but it's not worth it. All right. All right. So number 6 is always play with existence. Always play with existence, okay? Has the king kissed the peasant's feet when sovereign lands fade? Big entrances hide bigger meanings in their exit. Is love a tragedy, teaching you of the love in your heart? I have felt the confusion in many ways, but why limit the limitless to a shape? Run free within the formless, for in the silence of the being, divinity has spoken through every image. To break all fading images away, you must not give your separation the steering wheel. Do not be the pilot that forgot his hat at the end of the platform. Soar like eagles blessed. Feel the divine in every grain, for our eyes remain closed to the truth of every truth. The world turned around to shake every face. You feel all alone. My beloved child, always play with existence. Yeah, guys, pretty much take it easy. It's like, what did that poem mean? Take it easy. That's pretty much it. Because I'm telling you, I mean, think of it this way. Imagine you had completed all the serious tasks you required. You had done all the serious things. All that would remain would be to be playful. And once you actually become playful with language, you're not the language, you know? And this is what I would say one of the coolest things that's happened I would say, that has become global from Western civilization is stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is like uh, learning to not take language so serious. You can say that when a person takes language seriously, they can't have fun with language anymore. Number 10. You know. All right, let's see. Let's see if you know number 10. Yeah. Oh, man. Guys, honestly, I think the silliness in these conversations has to do with my, outer realm energy levels, really. Number 10 is, okay, incredible title. It's called Stillness of Existence. All right, let's warm up for this. All right, guys, I literally need to stretch for this poem. No, I'm joking. Stillness of Existence. I am the stillness of existence. Oh, can't you see? All blind men were always free. A voice from the echo. You're always found in your greater embrace. For time and space shall play with you, like old friends who could never die. Is the catalyst ready for its surprise? Oh, my beloved witness, I am the stillness of existence. Oh, can't you see the radiance of your sight? The dawn has always spoken through your eyes. Yeah. Who knew? An advanced civilization has to literally step out of our eyes. We have to invent our greatness as the continuity of the glow of humanity. Lauren in the chat section says, I think stand-up comedy is going to play a huge part in reducing all the hate in this world. Stand-up comedy is like the last, stance of multidimensional freedom, I would say, to some degree, in the linguistic simulation. That means when the comedians of a civilization are dismissed, you can say a civilization has taken itself too seriously. You know? That means we should have professional comedians in the United Nations. Whenever world leaders argue and they get loud, comedians come and make fun of both the world leaders, and everybody laughs and relaxes and calms down. That's the whole point. We need literally in the United Nations a bunch of comedians who can roast and say the things the political leaders can't. But in a good way. I'm saying all of this is to help make the system efficient by adding more dimensions of perspective to it. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to blow this bee away. People are like, oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. So anyways guys, thanks for listening. I'm going to end the talk here actually. The most important thing is to realize that get to know your eyes first, then it will become, after you have gotten to know the nature of the unknown within, then you look at it and just learn from unknown things outside. And inevitably it becomes just a rhythm of trust, I would say. Because really, I mean, it's like people are sitting on a chair and they're like, Savior, Savior. And the Savior is like, yo, man, you're sitting on a chair. Like, just get up from the chair. And the person's like, no, I can't do it on my own. And you're like, oh my God, you're the only one sitting on the chair. Literally, if you don't get up from the chair, who else can? Who else needs to get up from the chair? You're the only one like, that's what I'm saying, that when you realize nobody has your eyes, you become responsible for their performance here. So anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. Much blessings and awesome.